And we're live. Good morning, Insta fam. How you all doing? It is a Saturday sliding into the DMs, 17th of Feb today. And this is something that I do every other weekend. And the reason I do this is I've got some time to kill whilst my son is at his drama school. So I thought rather than doom scrolling, why don't I come on Instagram live? And the topic is Saturday sliding into my DM. So I wanted to give an insight as to what's been going on in my DMs through LinkedIn, email, Insta, kind of messages and conversations that I'm having, with a view to give you an insight as to what happens in my DMs and hopefully give some nuggets, give some advice, or just share some experiences. So if you're watching this live, all I would ask is if you can like, comment down below. If you're watching this at a later point, that's all great, and hello from the past. And if you can give it a share, that would be awesome as well. And I'd love to encourage people to put some comments, and if they've got any questions for the next version of this, then drop them down, and I'd love to answer them. But it's been a busy week or so since we've last done this. Hello, Chris. Lovely to see you, bro. Put in a wave. And Chris, if you got any questions, feel free to drop them down into the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. So coming back, busy week and a half. A lot has been going down in the DMs, and a lot's been happening in the world of myself. So the first one I want to talk about is a DM that morning, Chris, fire. I got DM'd the other week to attend an event in London. So this was James Ski, who's the CEO of Sales Confidence, and they're a membership organization. And he just hit me up and just said, mate, are you around for a dinner this week? And I was like, yes. What's the details? What's the date, location, and time? So it was a Wednesday evening, and he hooked us up at the Blue Marlin, Ibiza, up in Shoreditch, which is a private members lounge. And I didn't really ask any other details other than what is it in aid of? And he just said, once a month they look to invite CEOs, founders, SDRs to come down for a dinner, networking. And I was just like, yep, I'm in the world of networking, so why not? And I didn't really think too much of it until the actual day where I was heading up to Shoreditch. I was like, oh damn, okay. I didn't do any prep or anything like that. But what I did do was James sent like an attendee list of everybody that's coming down with their job titles and companies. So what I decided to do was to send all of them a LinkedIn Connect just to say hi and say that I'm looking forward to meeting them. And the funny thing was, when I got there, they were like, oh, you're the guy that sent the LinkedIn request. And I was like, yeah, boy. It's kind of what you do pre-event when you're doing sales as well, right? Which is always a good tip. So I get down there, meet a couple of people, meet James, and it was bougie. I mean, like when I was speaking to James, I was like, how the hell did you hook this up? And if you're curious as to what did it look like, if you check on the HappySelling Instagram page, you'll be able to see the reel that I created out of it. But here's the funny thing. So I met one of the new SDRs for Sales Confidence, and this guy was telling me that he was originally a physio, and now he's like an intern at Sales Confidence, and is learning about the world of sales. And he kind of asked me, like, what's my story? And it kind of went on to this one story that I do tell time and time again, when I was an SDR and I was flying out to Foster City in California, and I was the only British guy in a room of other 20 new SDRs. And we had a guy called Ben who went round the room, and he asked everyone to introduce themselves and say, why did they join that company and what are they looking to do in their sales career? And as the story goes, everybody went round the room and it came to me, and I didn't really know what to say at that point in time. So I said, I've joined here because one day I want to be a CEO of my own company. And that was the story I was telling this physio/SDR guy. And then what was really funny, when James kind of like drew everybody's attention at this sales confidence event, he asked everybody to get into a circle. So imagine 30 people around in a circle. And he then said to the crowd, welcome to the sales confidence event. I'd love to go around the room and ask, who are you? What is your biggest challenge? And what's your biggest goal for 2024? And I was like, ain't this deja vu? So everybody went round, and I had that same feeling from 20 years ago where I was like, my heart's pumping. What the hell do I say? I want to make sure that I say the right thing. So it came down to number 29, the guy in front of me, Ahmed, who was a really nice dude as well. And so here's some more context. I'm going to go do a keynote in Berlin later this year, and I'm already thinking about how do I kick off that keynote. So here was my tester. So I went to the room and I said, before I introduce myself, can I just ask a question to the room? Who here works in sales? And put your hand up. And obviously, if you're in a room full of CEOs and founders and 30 of them, everybody laughed and put up their hand. And then I concluded and said, great to know I'm in the right room. And then everybody laughed. And then I introduced myself and blah, blah, blah. And actually I said, my biggest challenge in 2024 is I talk too much. And my biggest goal for 2024 is to talk more. So that's kind of, it was like a deja vu moment. I'm also thinking about the future and whatnot. But cut a long story short, it was an awesome event with a great dinner, met a lot of new people, and made some good networking connections. But here's something even funnier with this, right? So going up to Old Street in Shoreditch, as I was walking to the event, I came across a bar that I went to about 9 years ago, where I actually signed my first ever HappySelling freelance contract when I launched my biz. And truth be told, I got screwed a couple of months later, and that was a big learning curve for me. But facetiously, I thought to myself, when I was walking back from the sales conference event going home, I was like, isn't it mad that sometimes where you start, you may think it could be the end of everything? And then, 9 years later, being in a room full of CEOs and introducing yourself, and you are your own founder, and you still have your biz, it was like a nice, moment of just like, I wouldn't say I made it, but I'm still here, which is, really cool. So you never know how things are going to pan out. So anyway, that was one of the cool DMs that I got in as well. What else have we got? So we had James. Okay, there was another one. So more and more, as my LinkedIn followers are starting to grow, I think I'm just nearly at the 8,000 mark, which again, I'm really grateful for everyone that does follow on my content on LinkedIn. But as your presence starts to grow on social, the amount of people that will try and get in contact with you will increase as well. And I wouldn't say I'm at a point where I can't respond to every DM, but it is hard with the amount of people that do DM, and you have to try and decipher whether this is a potential business opportunity. Is this just a standard conversation based on the content you've posted, or is it somebody trying to pitch slap you when they come into your DMs? And I think the funniest one that I keep getting on recent is, hey Neil, what would it mean to you if we could book you 15 coaching clients in the next 3 months? Or, hey Neil, when it comes to lead generation, what are your thoughts and what are your plans for 2024? Or, another one could be, we help founders do X, Y, Z, and da-da-da-da-da. So the arrogant side of Neil initially says, bro, have you checked my LinkedIn, because do you see what I do? I am a guy that coaches and teaches people how to do prospecting, and obviously I do that for myself. So I wouldn't be looking for an external service to do so. And when it comes to the coaching piece, I work with my sales coach, and 80% of my calendar is filled by them, meaning I don't have to hunt, which is a privilege. That's a dream to have, but I don't have to hunt for work because the work is already obtained by them, and then I'm just booked in to coach people, which is a dream. And the other 20% of my time is, happy selling stuff like sales training, podcast, this sort of stuff, and all of that. But there was a really nice guy who kind of does what I do, and he DM'd me along the lines of, what you're looking to do in terms of prospecting. And I gave him the reply, like, I'll always respond to people. And I just said, I'm all cool, mate. That's kind of what I do. And I explained to him about my sales coach and what they do. And then he responded and just said, okay, cool, totally respect it, which is good. That's, decent conversation. I'm not going to shit on someone for trying to, reach out to me. Otherwise, that would be stupid coming from me, especially, right? But then what happened after was, and this is what I love, is there's a bit of a delay. You don't hear back. And then like a couple of hours later, then that person reached back out and said, that's really cool with this coaching biz. And then he asked the question, is that something he can get involved in? And I'm like, potentially, yeah. But I always have to kind of put back and say, my sales coach isn't my business. I work with them. So you would have to speak to those founders like Kevin and Mark. And from there, you can ascertain if there is an opportunity for you to do coaching. And I've had a lot of these DMs with people, and they're, in the last year, I've brought about 6 people into my sales coach, and help them get work within that. But also you have to be very mindful of the type of people that you want to put through, because again, if you work for that biz and they've got reputation, you want to help them maintain that as well. So yeah, I'm getting hit with a lot of, we can build your business. And I'm like, but that's my business. So I'm not in the business of that. What else has been going down in the DMs? Yeah, had a bit of another weird one. I want to be mindful how I go into this one. But again, if you're watching the Saturday Slide-In DMs, please make sure that you like, give it a share, put a comment, and if you've got any questions that you want me to answer in the world of sales, or Neil, what the hell do you do? Put them down in the comments as well. So I had somebody who on LinkedIn was liking a lot of my posts, and they were adding comments, and especially when I'm sharing tips, not just about sales, but content creation. This person was always thanking me, and then eventually they slid into my DMs. And I'm always happy when people support, and I'll always try to make the time to respond to any DMs that come in. But with this one, it turned a bit weird when they're saying, like, they started asking if I need a service of some sort when it comes to content creation. And I was like, I make all of my own content and I handle all of my content. But then it kind of went a little bit darker, where they're like, no, you need to send me this sort of content and this is what I'm going to do for you. And I responded to that and said, what do you mean I need to? Because if anybody that knows, I don't like to be told what to do. Especially when you don't really know me and I don't know you. But rather than losing my temper with somebody, I asked them to elaborate a bit further. And they were saying, this is what you need to be doing on LinkedIn. This is a service I provide. This is what I can do for you. Oh, by the way, somebody else in your LinkedIn network who's a known person also uses me as well. And I was just like, thank you for the explanation, but no thank you. And I'll always give a reason why. I'll always tell people why I decline whatever type of prospecting or service they're pitching towards me. But this person just wasn't getting the hint. And it was at that point I'm like, I'm either going to block you or I'm going to delete this conversation. But luckily it got to the point where this person, I think, understood, and then we're just done. So I'm all in for, people trying to hustle, trying to do their own thing. But if it's not relevant and that person doesn't need it, that person does have the right to say no. And I think this is another thing that I've seen on kind of LinkedIn when it comes to, cold calling, objection handling and stuff like that. We can always teach, sales techniques to overcome objections, but I think it's also important to understand that people can say no and people cannot require a service and people can be very happy with that. And that's something I learned from Mark Akers, from, my sales coach, when we were practicing cold calling and he was reviewing a couple of calls. And this SDR was like bummed out because they just couldn't overcome the objection. But Mark kind of said, you lead with problems rather than a product. So, a problem could be you don't have time to do this, or perhaps you don't get the coaching you need from your manager, or perhaps, you don't have the support because your organization is so big that you need that one-to-one love, and perhaps you don't have that. But if somebody had all those things, they don't have a problem. And Mark has always educated those two. If they don't have the problems and they're not suffering from anything, then they're probably not a good fit and not good use of your time. So it's always best to go search for people that do have the problems, right? So anyway, I'm digressing, but valid point. And it was a DM. My phone's falling down. Again, if you're watching this live, please make sure that you give this a like. Please make sure you share and comment, and if you're watching this back as a recording, give it a like, and also put in a comment as to what you're thinking. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you have any questions yourself? Let us know. Another one. So I had this really cool... Okay, so this is a different one. This is somebody who works in marketing. So this person, they themselves are a content creator, and they create content on LinkedIn with they're traveling because they work for a remote company. And this person also likes my content and, added comments and everything. So thank you very much. But they reached out and said, "Oh, I love what you're doing with your podcast. Who are you looking for?" And I said, ideally people that work in sales development, they're relatively new to the role, and they've got some sort of compelling story they feel they could share to inspire others. And he's like, "All right, cool." So he then, as a marketeer, he then started giving me a whole list of people within his company to see if I'd be interested in them. And I was like, "Cool, you're bringing me the lead list. I love this." But I was also thinking, like, what's the catch? Like, what do you want in return? And he also said, like, no return. I think there's some really cool people that work in sales in my company. And, admittedly, there's a bit of brand awareness for us, but I think, it's a win-win situation, which I 100% agree with. So, cut a long story short, he introduced me to a lovely lady based out in Germany. We got the talking and we've booked in a session. But what I loved about this marketeer was he followed up, and I completely forgot about our conversation, and I should have gone back and actually said, "Thank you for introducing me to that lovely lady." He said, "Just wanted to know how have things gone. Did you meet her? What was it like?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally, dude. We met, we've got it booked in for April, and I'll let you know as soon as it's done." And he said, "Cool, if you can, because what I'd love to do is help you promote it." And I was just like, that's really nice. Okay, so I'm in a live location in a car park and there's people around me. Anyway, so I really love the fact that he followed up and he wants to help promote it. So he just said to me, as soon as it's out, send me the links and we can put it on our marketing channels. And that for me is really a dream when it comes to brand awareness with my podcast, because, majority of my guests, they'll always share it. But when a marketing team can take episodes and help get it out there, and they may have like a big reach of 10,000, 150,000 followers, bro, that just really helps out, right? So I love it when, people do that as well. What else have we got in the DMs? Yeah, here's one. So another thing that happens a lot of the time is people know me from my network. We're perhaps connected on LinkedIn or other social platforms, and they ask for favors. And these favors are basically asking for free advice and consulting. And as my bandwidth and my network is growing, I don't really do that anymore. I'm not yet on the LinkedIn train. How do you find it benefits and how do you use it to good effect? Okay, great question, Chris. I'll come back to that in a moment. So with the LinkedIn piece, people will reach out to me and they say, "Hey, Neil, can you jump on a 30-minute call to give some advice to this person because this is your field, this is your bag, and yeah, I really trust you." And my part is, in my head, I'm already starting to think, what is the ask here? And I also selfishly ask myself, what is in it for me? And I'm having all these, preconceptions, but the thing that I've also realized is none of that might be the case. So a really good question to ask somebody, when they hit you with a question is this, and I learned this from Mark Akers as well. What do you mean? Right? So the reason that you ask this question is it's to remove any ambiguity of what you may preconceive it to be, what they're talking about. Like, for example, back in my days of sales, when somebody said, "Oh, so in terms of reporting, what does this provide?" And, if I was working with a solution with data and analytics, I would then say, "Oh, it provides this much information, you're able to get understanding and content performance X, Y, Z, Z, Z." And sometimes what used to happen was customers said, no, that's not what I mean. What I meant was ... And sometimes if they don't get the answer they want, it actually may put them off looking into the solution or product further. So, if asking a question when said, "Oh, so what does it mean in terms of, content and reporting?" I would then ask, "What does that mean to you, or what do you mean specifically?" And they could say, "Well, what we're looking to do is understand, the reportings and metrics from Google Analytics, then coming into our content performance engine, and then being able to segment that based on different regions." Okay, yeah. So basically we have an integration with Google Analytics, which then puts it into our content management system. And then you can get singular or granular data based on the filters that you put through. So coming back to that point of when I get asked for favors, I also now say, what do you mean? Because I want to see what their explanation is before I go in and respond to that. But if it is a case of, somebody needs help and they want 30 minutes of your time, my next question to that would be, and if they then explain, said, just need you to jump on a call with somebody, I will then ask, is it paid? And they may turn around and say, well, no, it's not paid, just 30 minutes of your time. I'm like, all right, cool. I charge X amount of pounds per hour for that, so let me know when we can do that. I haven't got to that point yet with this person, but there is a potential that I could go. So yeah, what do you mean? So anyway, coming back to Chris, you've asked a really good question. I've not yet got onto the LinkedIn train. How do you find it benefits and how do you use it to good effect? Really super cool question, my bro. So let's take a step back and just try to understand what is LinkedIn and why would somebody jump on this. So the easiest way that I would explain LinkedIn to my friends that don't work in sales or use it, it's kind of like Facebook for work. So it is a social media platform with the intent of people that work in a certain field. So you could, be a salesperson, you could be a design agency, you could be a PT, you could be, all of those things, whatever profession it is. So one thing that I've learned over time is not too many people want to talk about what they do for work on Facebook. Or perhaps they do because they hope that their friends and family will support them. And what a lot of founders have found is their friends and family don't. And the reason for that is because they know the existing version of you, the person they grew up with, school, friends, growing up in your teens, going on holiday and stuff like that. But when it comes into work persona, that might not be the place. So that's what LinkedIn could be for anyone out there that's looking to get on LinkedIn. The other thing that people may use LinkedIn for is to find jobs, to network with people or companies that you're looking to get involved with, or potentially your future clients, right? So the one mistake a lot of people think, and I've had this from my friends before they've jumped on LinkedIn, is they just see it as a job site. It's not. It's just so much more than that. And another example I can give you an analogy is if you've got Facebook, you've then got Marketplace where you can sell your shoes, CDs, DVDs, or whatever secondhand stuff. So, it is a networking site, but it can be used for certain things as well. So LinkedIn can be used for job hunting, but, how do you think it benefits? All right. So how does it benefit me? It benefits me that every person that I've ever done business with or tried to do business with, I connect or send a friend request. And I look at your LinkedIn profile as kind of like your digital business card. So if you think about back in the day, you'd go to an office or you go to a networking event, you literally pull out a physical business card. And what they find is that 90% of business cards end up in the bin, right? Yeah, it's just a waste of paper. But with LinkedIn and your profile, it is a digital business card. So it allows people to see who you are, what your work experience is, what your specialty is. So that's one area. It's a digital business card. The other benefit it can be is it can increase your reach to people that you may not have in your normal real life. So for example, if I'm living in Reading, I could probably know all the businesses and people in Reading, but if I'm on LinkedIn, I can connect with everyone in Reading, but I can connect with people on the other side of the world in the US, in Germany, Europe, South America. It's just a bigger network. And with over 7 billion people on the planet, a lot of business professionals are on LinkedIn. So that's another benefit. The other space it is, you can find people that are looking for a product or a service. So somebody may put a LinkedIn post similar to a Facebook post and say, hey, I'm looking for a sales trainer. Or does anybody know a creative that can do some graphic design for me? And somebody within that network said, hey, I know a guy called Chris Edwards, have a chat with him. And then I can send the LinkedIn profile, you guys can then connect and then get into the DMs and have a conversation. But where is LinkedIn going in the future? With the rise of content creators, it's allowing you to put content out there to kind of sell yourself. And the thing that I learned from watching Gary Vaynerchuk on LinkedIn and on Instagram was Gary's always said, don't treat your business like a product or a service or an agency, because that's what everybody else is doing. What you should be doing is treating your business like a media company. Right? And some people may say, well, what do you mean? Well, if you think with HappySelling, I provide sales training and sales coaching. But the majority of my content you see comes from my podcast, doing stuff like this, where I'm not proactively selling my business or something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about experiences and networks and connections and conversations, people's story, and that's the stuff people buy into. And if you do that, that's what people really like on their feeds. They love watching content. And then by watching that content or listening to that content, it then drives them back to the person who's creating it. And they're like, oh, so who is this Neil? What does he do? Oh, he's a sales trainer. Oh, okay. Oh, he does sales coaching. Do you know what? I really love the advice that he gives them. Da-da-da-da-da. And then you get an inbound lead. So, I coach and train people how to build their LinkedIn profiles and, get really good connections. So the free advice that I would give when it comes to creating a good LinkedIn profile, you don't want to appear salesy and you don't want to be a billboard for your company, but you want to create a really good digital business card, which makes you approachable. So people are happy to connect with you and they're not going to fear that once they connect with you, they're going to get a DM saying, hey, do you want to buy my service? Because that turns people off. But a great LinkedIn profile, 3 elements. So the first one is your profile picture. So when it comes to your profile picture, you want to make sure that firstly you have it colourful and it's most recent and up to date. So for example, if you met me 2 years ago, I had blonde hair, white hair. And if you connected with me on an online meeting and saw me black hair, you're like, ooh, are you the same person? The other one is make sure that you smile. I put LinkedIn profiles very similar to things like Bumble or Tinder or Hinge and dating profiles, because it takes on average 2.7 seconds for somebody to decide if they're going to accept your LinkedIn friend request. So make sure that you smile. And I'm somebody that can't fake smile. And once when I was doing headshots with a photographer, he taught me this really cool tip, which is you open your mouth really wide and then you put your tongue at the top of your mouth and you do this. See? Looks like I'm fake smiling, right? See, that's the real smile. And then the second thing is after a good, also on the picture is you want to make sure that you mirror the type of audience that you want to connect with. So let's say, for example, you worked within financial services or banking. Most of those people will be, very business profesh, suit and tie, looking with a blazer and all of that. Equally, if you were selling financial services, you would want to dress like them because people tend to gravitate like-minded people. Similarly, if you were selling to the world of cybersecurity and DevOps or developers, a lot of these people that I've met are very, introverted and they're very casual and they wear hoodies and they're all good. If you're, a startup trying to sell to others tech startups, most of those people tend to wear branded logo hoodies and sweaters and all of that stuff. So equally you'd wear that. So when it comes to the picture, make sure you're smiling, make sure it's colorful and most recent and up to date, and also try to mirror the people that you're connecting with. The second piece on a LinkedIn profile is below your big picture, you'll have something called like a headline or a tagline. The biggest mistake that people do is they put their job title. So they may put CEO of company, or they may put sales development representative at company. The thing is, working in sales, when you try to connect with people, if you saw sales professional under that person's picture, you're either maybe going to think this person is probably going to try and sell to me. So what a tag or a headline should say is, how do you help the people that you're connecting with or you work with? Not what does your company do, but what do you as that person within that company do for them? So I'll give you a real life example. When I worked at a company called Showpad, under my profile picture it says providing people with content activation. And for context, I was selling to heads of sales and heads of marketing. And normally when I had booked an online meeting or a face-to-face, some marketers used to ask me, like, Neil, what the hell is content activation? And I was like, I don't really know. It was on our website and our marketing team came up with it. And I thought it sounded really cool. And they're like, yeah, we don't understand what it means. So it then later changed to, I help marketers understand what content is performing, right? Or another one I had was for the sales leaders I was selling to. I help sales leaders know what their reps are actually doing in the field. So your headline and tagline should be a succinct sentence which gives your reader an understanding as to what you do, and that anybody could understand that, whether they worked in that industry or role or not. So mine, today I help SDRs to become happy sellers. Because the idea is, once they're happy with the picture and the headline, they're then going to scroll down even further past those 2.7 seconds to see what you do. And then when it comes to the about section, I'm not going to go into this too deep because then I'm giving all my coaching secrets away. But ultimately in a bio, rather than saying, my company does this and we're the leading provider in XYZ, blah, 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 blah. You want to be credible and you want to be somebody seen as to know what they're talking about in that field. So I always say, tell them something they already know. Give them a fact about what those people that you're trying to connect with typically have, which then highlights to them that you understand their world to an extent. Then, after that, tell them something or teach them something they may not know. So it could be a fact, it could be some information based on a study, and always, decision makers make decisions based on numbers and facts. So if you can back up your statement with metrics or, percentages, that's also cool. And the last point is just tell them how they can get in touch with you. So, towards the bottom of my LinkedIn bio, and if you want to go check it, check my LinkedIn profile, and also send me a connection request if you like, give them details. So I say, if you want to pick my brain or talk about sales development, call me on, and I put my phone number and I also put my email. So yeah, when it comes to LinkedIn profile, if I was to summarize it, it's Facebook for work. It helps you connect with people that you may not have been able to connect with in real life. And it also helps you create a digital business card for yourself and your services and your businesses. Hopefully, Chris, that answers your question, sir. Right. If you've got any more questions, dude, feel free to fire away. I'll be happy to talk. What was another one? Right. Yeah, I think in the spirit of helping people. So, somebody who watches, you're more than welcome, dude. And once you're on LinkedIn, connect with me. I'd always be happy to give my 2 cents on your profile as well, mate. Bit of free coaching. Yeah, in the habit of helping people, that's what I love doing. Just got to be careful at the time. I think we're going to go for another 5 minutes and then we'll be done because I've got to go pick up my little boy. Helping people. So somebody who actually watches the HappySelling Instagram stories, they know who they are, but they never talk to me. They never comment or like, but they watch. Silent watchers. I noticed that they've recently been let go of work, and it's another redundancy story. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, damn, man, they're a good person. So I reached out to them and just said, sorry to hear the news. And I'm also wondering, where I work at my sales coach, do you think that could be something for you? And their response was, I don't know how it works, and I'm not too sure. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I would say, do you want to jump on a 15-minute call? I can tell you how it works. I can tell you why I joined, and then I can make an introduction if need be. And what I loved that this person did was they said that they wanted to take a break from LinkedIn and messages given the news, and if we could have a chat the following week. And I said, cool. And I think that's a very smart thing to do, especially when you get the news of company and job going. Take some time for yourself, go reflect, go for a walk. And as Leah said on our podcast, go have a donut, go have a gin, and just sit for the chill for that weekend before coming back and then ask for feedback. So, yeah, I'm always in the habit of trying to help people and connect people. And then that's another example of how can LinkedIn help. So if somebody's out of work, some people in their network can see that person is then available for work, and then make an introduction. So I'm going to choose one last DM. I got 2, but which one shall I share with you? I think we'll go with Mr. Bouquet. So I'm always in the habit of hunting for business because that's what I do, what I teach people, where we had... So years ago, when I was running HappySelling, there was a sales leader that wanted my training, that wanted my help, but he had a habit of taking me down the garden path and just never committing to it, and it really pisses me off. But I also found it humorous as well, because I didn't need the business at that point. But anyway, cut a long story short, he worked for a tech SaaS company. He then went off to another company. He did actually get in touch about coaching, and he just did the same thing. He took me to a certain point and then just forgot about it. However, there was a new SDR manager in his place at said company. And we connected on LinkedIn. I also mentioned I knew that person from the past and said, oh, he was my boss. And I was like, oh, cool. If only you knew. But we got to talking, and every now and then he likes my posts. Now, Sometimes I'll reach out to sales leaders to try and introduce my sales coach. And some do and some don't. But sometimes I like to do what I would do on a cold call or in the actual meeting, but do it in the DMs. So I hit them with, hey person, thanks for connecting, hope you enjoy my content and updates. I'm working with a lot of SDR managers and they tell me these problems. And I list about 3 or 4 of them and I just say to him, do any of those resonate with you? And then he said, yeah, pretty much all of them, which is great from a sales prospecting perspective. But then also to take it a step further, I say to them, out of that list, which one would you say stands out the most? Hello, Mr. Samuel. Lovely to see you, dude. We've got about 2-3 minutes left, so you can go back and watch this. And I asked him, which one would you say stands out the most? And this person then said onboarding. And I said, oh, cool. You know what? This is something I've been working with a lot of, sales managers with. And I said, tell me more about, the problems you're having with the onboarding. And it was just him saying the adoption, seeing if this stuff actually sticks. A lot of it has to be repeated thereafter. But trying to make the SDRs as ready to hit the ground running with their prospecting because he's building up a team, right? Big shout out to you, Sam, my bro. Give you a little bit of a wave. And, he's talking about all the problems. And then I just kind of said to him, I said, well, look, and this is what I do on the cold calls and, in meetings, I said, how about we just have a 10-minute chat where I can bounce some ideas about your onboarding and then share how some other managers that I've helped have done it. And then he's just like, really? Would you give me that time? Yeah. So we've arranged a meeting for next Wednesday and I've told him to come to that meeting with his onboarding plan already. So let's have a look. And then the idea would be for me to share. Now in 2 veins, what I am actually doing is I'm still prospecting and I'm hoping this could be a lead. But initially the intention and objective is to go into that conversation, see what he's doing and then help him. And then ask him the question as to, how did you find having this sort of session with me? And if he sees it as valuable, I said, well, this is what I do. So if you're interested in subscribing, I can introduce you to the sales guys. And if not, I'd be like, cool. I can then still ask him the question, do you know anybody else that would be interested in something like this? Because I think in order to pay for coaching, you kind of got to experience it first to understand what is it all about, because everybody has their own preconceptions as to what coaching is. So, I always think of it, it can always go in 2 different ways, right? It could either be a lead for me or it could be a lead from the network. And what they do say is 92% of customers would be willing to give a referral. However, only 11% of salespeople actually ask for the referral. And this is what I said to an SDR last week in coaching. All right, say if you're trying to do a cold call or you're trying to book a meeting and it doesn't happen, remember, you never ever lose. You either win or you learn. So the win could be that you book the meeting and it becomes business. Or the learn is why it didn't work, but then asking that prospect, you could ask at the end of the session because there's nothing lost. Based on our interaction today, what advice would you give me if I'm speaking to somebody like you in the future? Or, okay, if this service isn't for you, but do you see the value in it? Yeah, I can see the value. Okay, cool. Do you know anybody in your network that would find this valuable? And could you make an introduction? Get ballsy with it. Anywho, so this has been a really great session. I've really enjoyed it. Samuel, thank you much. And Chris, thank you so much for joining. And as a reminder, I will be taking this content and reposting it across different platforms. But if you ever have any questions for me, feel free to add them to the comments, put it into the DMs, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer this in 2 weeks' time, whilst I do another Saturday sliding into the DMs. But wishing everybody an awesome weekend. Have a great one. See you on the other side, and happy selling.